Yo, what's up guys, hope you guys are doing good. So today we are going to see what if Naruto and Kaguya were husband and wife part 2. Hope you will enjoy this video, so before we start please like the video and subscribe to our channel and hit bell notification, it motivates me to upload more fanfics for my lovely audience. So let's get started. I pretty much knew that my students would understand that they should not follow me. And let's face it, Kakashi and his team would not even care to follow me. It's not like they would worry about me walking around in a crime-infested town when it was dark. Actually, I truly believe that Sakura at the very least wished that I met a gruesome end due to a mugging. I need information about Gato's operation and information that would also help me recover most of the money this criminal has stolen from the people. Let's face it, the construction is going to need massive funds to actually finish, and it would take them years to actually get their economy to a point that they are able to pay for our mission. Onoki would not be happy to learn that it would take Wave years to pay off the debt that they now have thanks to the mission we were doing. I mean, for crying out loud, this is not charity, we are expected to get paid for our work. The other thing was that part of that debt was owed to Konoha. And let's face it, Konoha is a lot closer to Wave than our village is. If Konoha was to put pressure on Wave for them to pay off the debt, it would be easy to see Wave putting off paying us, to pay off Konoha. That means I cannot depend on the Konoha team to actually pull this through or even help. My failure would a massive reward for some on that team. So that leaves me with two choices. Either ask my team to work with me or do the work myself and have my team actually keep our client and her family safe. Seeing that I would need to do some rather gruesome things, I decided to let the kids guard our client's family. I decided to go towards the local bar, and with a nice illusion, I was the spitting image of a ruthless, backstabbing, heartless bandit, the sort Gato would consider his soulmate if everything I heard from our client's letter was true. I walked into the bar and looked at the people inside. You pieces of human garbage, keep to yourself or I will pull your heart out by yanking on that thing you have hanging out of your mouths. I went to sit down the bar and a person came towards me and offered me a drink. I expect the darn thing to be poisoned. Look, friend, we all live in this shithole we once called a town. What exactly got you in such a Wave sort of mood? I looked at the drink and after a quick sip, I decided to answer. Oh sure, come to the land of fire, the boss said. A marauder's paradise, he said. A place where a rascal like myself could get down to do my bloody business, except that it's chock full of chakra-using psychopaths. A group of kids killed my boss, my crew, and I barely got away with my hide. Do you think that would make anyone feel happy? Half the bar actually began to look at me in a completely different light, it seems. I got more sympathy after that than in my entire childhood. Yeah, it does sound like you got a raw deal, but don't worry here, we got it pretty sweet around here. The big crime boss named Gato has given us plenty of chances to torment the townies, and he promised pretty good pay once we get rid of that stupid bridge builder. I took another sip and looked at the man sitting right next to me. Sure does sound nice, but if I don't get at least one good chance to butcher someone, it's just not a good day. Does this Gato guy torment, or do I actually get to get my hands nice and bloody? There is nothing like a good bloodbath to make my day. The man slapped me on my back and began to laugh. Finally, I meet a man after my own heart. You better believe Gato can give you chances like that and more. Come on, the name is Kiriko, and you are. Since we are being so cordial. I looked at him and told him they never gave me a name, they sort of call the Kazuku Jr. So how about we finish this drink and you tell me when can I meet your boss? I want to get some killing and more importantly earn some money for doing such fun things. He told me to meet him at the entrance to the dock area early tomorrow, 6 in the morning. Apparently Gato didn't like to waste time. I knew I had tasted that sort of poison at least once in my previous life. And thanks to me recovering at least 3 pieces of my soul, I was pretty much immune to all poisons. Kiriko, my foot. That was the female hunter all over again. Got to admit she was really something, being able to pretend to be a guy so well that nobody ever figured who or what she really was. I walked up a tree and tried to sleep. By try I mean Kakashi actually followed me to the tree I was planning to sleep and just followed me to the branch I was going to sleep on. No, it turns out Kiriko was not the daughter of Zabuza, go figure Kiriko was in fact Kakashi. When he told me that I wanted to punch him hard enough to send him crashing into the ground. So we both figured that pretending to work for Gato and getting him to trust us would be a good idea. Naruto, why didn't you ever return to the village after you killed Mizuki? You know the Hokage was actually planning to let you graduate if you returned with the scroll, call you a hero and give you an A-rank mission reward. Kakashi really was trying to get me to reconsider my decision, too bad it had even fewer chances than the chances Jiraiya had of actually dating Tsunade Senju. I could probably ask her out on a date too if I wasn't so very much in love with my imprisoned wife. Kakashi, I was not lying, and maybe you were not told, but I was happy that they decided to fail me out of the academy. The Forbidden Scroll is actually the seal scroll of my clan. I stole nothing, it was always the property of the Uzumaki clan. The Hokage who later had it wrote on it true, but doesn't change the fact that the scroll is Uzumaki property. I watch him sit down on the tree branch. Kakashi, if there is anything I am shocked and amazed about it, why are you loyal to that place? Back in Iwagakure, the word of our Chikage is law. He is the leader and in fact ruler of our village. The Hokage. He has reduced to a figurehead a long time ago. Your father was a war hero. He fought to defend that village through some of the most horrible things a person can experience. How did they thank him for his heroic defense of Konoha? By taking the result of an insignificant mission and ridiculing and mocking him till he took his own life, literally bullied to death, and you are loyal to that place. Do you have any idea how much the Hockett family is worth or what they own? He was now looking at me and just listening to what I was saying. It was something no one had ever done before, so I was quite surprised. Kakashi, your family owns 3 out of the 4 metal producing mines that Konoha has access to. That means that 3/3 of all the things made out of metal came from your family mines. Your father killed himself. That is tragic, but tell me, Kakashi, what happened to your mother? Kakashi looked at me and began looking rather sad. My mother died during childbirth, Naruto. She died the day I was born, much like yours did. I would think you of all people would not want to bring this up. I looked at him and sat down near him. Kakashi, my mother did not die of childbirth, she was murdered, so was yours. There are poisons that can make a woman so weak, that the effort of having a baby will kill them. Kakashi, your village is a mirage, a joke, a farce, and a pit of vipers all rolled into one. Let's see, if 2 advisors of the Fire Lord even tried to lie, influence, and undermine the authority of the Fire Lord, these 2 idiots would be taken outside, flogged, and publicly executed for treason. There are people in the council that do that on the daily basis to your Hokage. They reduced him to a figurehead, and the council is the real hidden authority of that place, a council that had members who wanted your family to die out for their economic benefit. So again, Kakashi, they killed your father and mother. Why are you loyal to the people that did that to your family? I looked at him and could see that he was thinking about the things I said. Kakashi, my father, and your adoptive father was the 4th Hokage, but that is not the place my father and yours died for. My father died to protect a place where the will of fire burned bright and promoted unity. That is a den of lying, backstabbing, opportunist, like I said, a pit of vipers. I saw him stand, so I stood up as well. They murdered a so-called noble clan just to steal a body part. They killed and framed the Uchiha clan just because Danzo, a member of the council, wanted to steal their eyes for his own benefit. He has a group of terrorists he himself had trained right under your nose and you didn't notice it. Yet I was the one the entire village formed mobs to try and murder me. He looked at me and began shaking his head. You said quite a few things I need to think about. Just don't be late for our meeting, Junior. We both need to find out what Gato is really up to, and if we must, diminish his numbers somehow. I looked at him and couldn't believe this guy played me like that. Look, Kakashi, Kiriko, whatever you want to call yourself, I am tired, angry, and unless you want me to be late, go back to Tazuna's place and sleep, or at the very least let me sleep. He was about to leave and suddenly he turned around. Why don't you come back with me? You know the guy has more than enough space for all of us to sleep on. You seriously plan to do a bird impression and sleep on this here tree branch? Why would you do that when you can sleep much more comfortably where I am going? I guess he was not paying attention. I looked at him as I leaned on the tree trunk. You didn't even teach your students the tree walking exercise, so that means Sakura, Sai, and Sasuke can't get up here. Do you honestly think I would sleep in the same building with a group of people that, much like the rest of their village, want me dead? I am not comfortable here, that is true. It will get cold, but nothing up here will try to stab me in the middle of the night or try to cut my throat. Now if you will excuse me, I got a busy day tomorrow, a jerk with a nasty hangover to meet, and a lot of work to do. Kakashi looked positively hurt by my jerk comment. I had to tell me I was actually talking about Gato. Why did I tell him? I have no clue, just felt like it for some odd reason. The next morning I sent a shadow clone to train my students, another to keep an eye on our client, and several others to help Tazuna by pretending to be people who wanted to volunteer. I walked down the tree and decided to go towards the dock. It didn't take me long to see the person I was expecting, Kiriko, or maybe I should say Kakashi in disguise. So Junior, you did make it on time. I got to tell you, I love it when my subordinates are punctual. Knowing the things that were said about Kakashi during my academy days, it was so bad that I had to laugh, and for effect, I laughed like an absolute raving maniac. The look of shock on the people around us was a nice. It means they actually felt my laugh was genuine. Kiriko, I am here to do two things, make money or kill a whole lot of people, so how about we meet your boss, or I am going to make the local coffin maker a very happy man. That made everyone give us a lot of personal space, as in they ran for their lives. I walked in the shipping company and for a second there I thought I saw what I once saw in a nightmare, a pig wearing a suit. Wait, that was supposed to be Gato. I guess I should ask him how he keeps his curly tail from hurting seating like he was. Boss, I would like you to meet my new partner. I called him Junior. I think you both will get along. Gato had to look at me, and the way he looked at me made me feel like I needed a long shower. I see animals look at prey in ways that made them look like less of a predator than Gato was looking at me. What exactly makes you think your new goon and I will get along that well, Kiriko? You haven't even worked for me that long. What makes you think you can tell I will like that punk? I looked at him and pretended to be really upset by sending a lot of killer intent towards everyone in the room. Kukuku, why would I get along with you? Good question. Kiriko, you told me there would be a chance for me to get paid doing some bloody business. Since it looks like your boss doesn't want to hire me, I guess I should start my bloodbath with the people here. I have to waste time. Either I make money or someone is going to pay with their lives for my lost time. Gato actually began to laugh. I can't make this up. He was laughing like I told the best joke ever, and slapping himself on his bloated gut while he laughed. You know something, Kiriko, you are absolutely right. I just met the guy and I already love him like he is my long-lost son, a man after my own heart. So how about I save the lives of the idiots here and give our friendly neighborhood psychopath some work that actually pays better than I pay you, sorry lot. He took out a folder and looked at me and Kakashi. I got some loans to collect, and these idiots have used their sob story to get out of paying me. Now with Junior here, I know that these debts will be collected either in cash or blood. I looked at the list and nodded my head. Wish there were more. I will take care of these idiots before lunch. Come on, Kiriko. We got some business to take care of. You don't mind if I sell these idiots to you, boss? Gato again laughed. No, Junior. I don't mind at all. They have outlived their usefulness to me. You can do with them whatever you want, and don't worry, I will have more work when you get back. For the next week we either scared the goons of Gato so badly with the fake remains of what they thought were our victims, to flat out make each of them mistrust each other to the point they were killing each other. I guess the suggestions that some of them might want to thin the competition for that big payoff had something to do with it. Each night I got the memories of my clone and the training that he had my team do. Good thing we have so much water nearby. In 3 days they mastered the water walking exercise and now we're doing the leaf exercise. As their instructor I couldn't be more proud. The other thing was that someone told Inari where I was sleeping and was waiting for me. The kid actually apologized for being rude and in tears told me he would never again take things for granted and was helping our client around the house. It turns out he went to buy groceries and saw a girl his own age offering herself as a prostitute to pay for her mother's medicine. This served as a rather tough wake-up call and realized he was living better than most. All in all, the construction was doing fine, and since Junior and Kiriko were doing such a fine job, Gato gave us a few days off. I decided to go and help my team train. Wouldn't you know it, I saw Kakashi having a tough time getting Sasuke and Sakura to actually do the tree walking exercise. In truth, I think he was more focused on Sasuke's progress if the way he was looking at them told me anything. I walked over to him and when I did I caught him looking at what my students were doing. How in the world did you get them that ready to do a Chunin chakra control exercise? I told him that it was that hard if they knew how to make at least one shadow clone. That is when he began to hit his head against a nearby tree and kept calling himself stupid every time he did. I was not about to stop him or correct him. It was pretty stupid of him to neglect his students' training like that. We managed to get the people we were sent to kill to hide. We managed to make a whole lot of fake money, and Gato was none the wiser. I opened TH safe and got the ledger I was looking for. The book told me right away that Gato indeed was rich. The man had more than enough money to pay every single of his thugs. Too bad for them they didn't get to read the note written on the ledger like I did. The note clearly states that once Tazuna and his whole family was dead, displayed publicly so that no one dares to question his rule of the town and territory, he plans to celebrate and all his thugs would be served a very special liquor. It was poisoned to kill every single one of them. In the man's own words, thugs are cheap to replace, why waste money paying them? I knew I hated the man before, but let's face it, I think the man would actually feel right at home with the Konoha Council. The days went by and the bridge was nearly complete. My students were doing a marvelous job. As their instructor, I had to tell you I was very proud of them. I guess it is true, nothing makes an instructor happier than seeing his student excel well beyond even my expectations. I faked the death of Junior and Kiriko. Kakashi decided to make it look like we came to blows and killed each other. We pretended to have a massive fight at a local bar and a few minutes later a massive explosion was heard in one of Gato's warehouses. We left lots of blood and the shredded remains of what looked to be our clothes. Too bad for Gato, this was the secret place he was storing the poisoned liquor he planned to use, and he couldn't get any more of that quickly enough. Thanks to Zetsu I knew that she was manipulating. Too bad that since I pretty much told her not to supply him with anything, she liked the idea. She told me that he owed them too much money anyway. From that day on I was back training my students and helping Tazuna with his bridge. Like I said, every piece of my soul that I regained held the memories and knowledge of thousands of years. Compared to the things I knew how to build, this bridge was a piece of cake. Now that I think about it, a cake might be a nice present for my team after this mission is over. I looked at them work hard and I looked at Sakura and her team barely working at all. This was pathetic. I mean it, this was really pathetic. Who takes a bunch of kids to a mission this rank and doesn't bother teaching them some basic chakra control? I heard someone sneeze and I turned around to find Kakashi. Naruto, you could help me train my team, you know. You already taught your team a Chunin level exercise, why don't you teach my team at least some Genin level exercises? I got up from where I was seated and looked at him, and why would I, a Junin instructor of Iwagakure, would teach anything to Genin of Konoha? You do remember that my cage hates your rotten village, don't you? I wouldn't have worked with you against Gato had it not been for my mission. He is not going to be happy about that. This will probably make me lose any money I earned in this mission. Why don't you return to Konoha? You know that there are some people there that do miss you. I flat out told him that since most were ninjas I would meet them like I met him, on a mission or while traveling on the road. I hate that blasted village you call your home, I told you Kakashi, they killed both your parents and mine, used me as a scapegoat, and I will have to return to that dump anyway. We both know the next Chunin exams are going to happen in that dump. Like I said, you should really train your students better. I kept looking at my students train and I couldn't help but feel pride in their achievements. Kenshin, Kasara, Sango, come on, follow me, we need to train your bodies too. Some stamina and strength building exercises would do you a lot of good. They all stood up and began to follow me to the bridge. They each looked at me like I was insane as soon as I told them to help the construction workers build the bridge. You might not realize this, but construction work is hard, requires both strengths to carry the materials and stamina. Sure, I could have you do something like exercises, but this way you actually also learn something new. They were not happy about it, but each went to the places I told them to go and help the people I told them to help. Naruto, I don't mean to be disrespectful and I am grateful that you and your students are willing to help me like this, but I can't help to worry about those kids. Are you sure they will not get hurt? I looked at him. You should worry about what you will do when you ruin your liver drinking like that. No, my students are ninjas, they are more than capable of doing some basic construction work. Now why don't you show me those blueprints again? I think I came up with a few ideas that you might find interesting. I walked to the table he was headed to and began to discuss the many little improvements I thought of as we began to look at the blueprints. He might think of me as a person too young to know any of this, but I am not as young as I looked. I got to say that seeing families even as poor and in such horrible conditions, it made me miss my wife an awful lot. I could not help but to look at the direction of the moon and close my eyes. I miss you, my love. Once I am whole, I am busting you out of that thing. Tazuna came up to me and placed his hand on my shoulder. Why do you look so sad, Naruto? I didn't bother to look at him. I am just thinking, and after seeing so many families with their kids, I miss my wife, that is all. She has been and always will be the love of my life, but I can't help but miss her since I can't be with her. He began to look at me and nod his head, as he stood right next to me. I know the feeling well, I also miss my wife too. It has been years since I've been able to tell anyone this, but in reality, drinking is the only thing that can help me to keep myself from crying. So how long since you lost the light of your soul? I couldn't help but laugh as some else called his wife the same thing I did. My wife is not dead, Tazuna, she simply is very far away from me. You could say she is as far away as the moon. He began to laugh and looked at me with a smile. Then you have it easier than I do. You either have to find a way to get her to come home or wait till she comes to home by herself. Mine is never going to return. How would you deal with that? I began to think, and that is when it hit me for the first time. If I couldn't ever get my beloved wife back, why I would focus on my kids. The only problem is 2 of my sons are dead, and both betrayed us in ways I wouldn't wish on anyone. And my only daughter is the only ally I have in getting my missing half back, Kaguya. I will have to tell her how precious and important she is to me when I meet her. Your wife is dead, Tazuna, but in a weird way she is still very much alive. She lives in Tsunami. Instead of focusing on what you will never get back, why not focus on what you have around you? Try to quit drinking and be there for the treasure your wife left in your care, your daughter. The man began to shake, and as I looked at him, he began to cry. I guess it was something he just needed to hear from someone else. I honestly never expected to hear such sentiments from the guy who murdered my master. Had you been so kind to him, well, we wouldn't even need to fight. In another life, in another time, we could have been friends. I looked at her and began shaking my head, and we wouldn't need to fight had you stopped hiding in that tree and instead stopped him. You knew he was going to kill us. It's a little matter of self-defense. Tazuna, you might want to see how my students are doing. I need to speak with this person for a bit. She was wearing the armor of a hunter ninja, but her mask was scratched something awful. We waited till Tazuna was far away before we turned our attention to each other. we both know you could have chosen a non-lethal approach, knock him out, gas, a genjutsu, to name a few. I waited long enough for you to get some rest, how about some appreciation and dance with me for a bit? I knew that this was not going to be a friendly dance between us, no, it involved pain, blood loss and eventual death, that sort of dance. Too bad for her, I had the powers and knowledge of 3 of the 9 pieces of my soul back, and defeating Zabuza only required the knowledge of 1. Once a long time ago someone told me knowledge is power, and boy oh boy don't I know it. I decided that it was clear she already saw my use of the flight of the Thunder God, so all this time probably was spent on how to counter that. Thanks to having these 3 pieces I saw a technique I never saw before. Even I had to agree that this technique was cruel, vicious and had no mercy in its creation at all. This was not surprising since the technique even had the name of my wife's family. I will say this Kaguya was by far the single most kind member of her entire family, I kid you not. Now that I remember her stories, it made me realize that I was rather fortunate to have met her. You see, normally the Okatsuki family is, in fact, a bunch of life-devouring, planet-killing monsters. The only thing that saved my life it seems was that Kaguya actually loved me, and the fact that when the family figured there were no planets left to devour, they turned on each other, with Kaguya having to be the last surviving member of her family. Now that I think of it, maybe that is the reason why she wanted to have a big family. Oh, you are wondering why am I spending time thinking about this? Well, the fight against the mask-wearing lady is pretty boring, truth be told. I don't even really need to think about evading or canceling her attacks. The truth is that the only reason this fight lasted as long as it did, is because I have been spending so much time thinking about my wife who is imprisoned in the moon. I would hope that my students who were watching this learned something from this, but chances are they are still too busy making cement and carrying construction materials to even notice. I decided to put an end to this stupid fight once and for all. I slammed my hands together and concentrated on the source of her chakra. I used 20 shadow clones, and when one pretended to be Zabuza I decided to switch with that person, and before she could even move I punched my fist into her chest, grabbing her heart. Okatsuki style. Reaping of the gift. The second my technique was used, every ounce of chakra she had or would ever have become nothing more to me than food. I took every ounce of chakra she had, and it should go without me saying that chakra was literally her life. In a matter of seconds she began to age, wither and turn into a pile of ashes. She was screaming when I punched my hand into her chest, but that didn't last long. I guess that is why nobody noticed what I called my technique. I knew, however, that I could not keep the stolen chakra, so I decided to do something for the people of the town. I turned and used the chakra I stole to purify and revitalize the large river. Apparently Gato had contaminated the water for a long time. This would have the effect of promoting life rather than the poison Gato in his stupidity spread throughout the river. The forest around the town began to glow, and the murky waters of the river became clear once again. I could even see fish jumping out of the water. I, however, was feeling a bit dizzy, and it was until Gato and his thugs showed up that my mind finally felt better. Gato was hoping that this one vengeful kunoichi would be enough to wound me and my students so that he and his men would finish us off. Took you long enough to get here, Gato. Before we begin with you screaming that they should kill me, my students, and the bunch of tree huggers from Konoha, don't think I didn't see you, Kakashi. Shame on you trying to copy one of my wife's techniques. Guys, I have something to tell you. This idiot is, in fact, rich, but he never intended to pay you. He intended to poison your liquor he would give you during the celebration for a job well done. I took out the ledger and let some of them read it, and the note too. To say that those thugs were angry would be an understatement. They were rabid, bloodthirsty, and feeling ashamed of having sided with Gato. They each turned around and instead of using their swords like Gato wanted, they used them on him. To say Gato looked like a pin cushion with all those blades sticking out of his corpse should tell you how angry these thugs were. In the end, my team got stronger, learned some basic construction techniques, and at the very least can help their families make minor repairs to their homes. Not a bad outcome if I do say so myself. As I met Tsunami, I thanked her for letting my students live in her home and everything she provided for them. She promised that as soon as the town was able, she would send the money that was owed to our village. As we walked outside and began to walk towards the new bridge, I heard 4 people following us. What do you plan to do, Naruto? Where are you going? To my surprise, Sakura was the one that asked. This Banshee and I never could be civil to each other in the academy. Sasuke was the very definition of being an emo. I plan to return to my village, see if my cage has more work for me and my team. If not, I will train them in some other things, not that it should matter to you. I imagine you and your team will be going to Konoha. Tell the old man I am doing fine, and no, my village is Iwagakure, not Konoha, so you can be happy, Sakura. You will not have to see me that often. I walked over to the side of the bridge. As I read the plaque, I really wish they had chosen another name. In recognition of the heroic acts of a person who changed the lives of Wave, we name this bridge, which he helped protect, the Great Naruto Bridge. My team was laughing as we heard the shouts and grumbling coming from Sasuke and Sakura. Our trip was productive and we managed to get my students much needed training. I would say this mission was a success, but somehow I don't think our cage will be happy that we ended up working with ninja from Konoha. I simply kept on training them on my way back. In the end, it was time to return home and report the results of our mission to our Tsuchikage. Yes, this is something I imagine is the same in all the villages. Yes, deep down each village is not really that different from each other. I was beating a target with every bit of anger I had, and I was plenty angry. Our cage in his infinite wisdom decided to participate in the Chunin exams in the worst possible place ever. At least for me, I guess I should not be so hard on him, it was partially my fault. The report of the mission on Wave was actually received by our cage with a rather positive response. He even said that since ninja of our 2 villages worked so well together on a mission like that, then it was high time to do something about the negative emotions and history between our villages, so he sent my team, since we worked with a team from Konoha, as a means to bury the hatchet, as it were. I hate that stupid village. That has not changed since I left, and more than likely it would never change, especially since I could see how Konoha treated a piece of my very soul. I sometimes wish I could talk to my son and ask him if he realized that they would treat me in such a fashion. Then again, maybe that is why he did it in the first place. I was pretty hard on him when he was growing up. I finished breaking my 20th training dummy and decided to walk towards the restaurant we decided we would meet. Sengo was having some sweets, Kenshin was drinking a soda, and he was drinking that soda with Kasara of all people. Honestly, these guys are going to make my hair turn white even before I manage to get all the pieces of my soul. Well team, I got some good news and some bad news. We have been selected to participate in the Chunin exams. It seems we made a good impression on some people and they think you 3 have what is required to take the exams. Now for the bad news, it is in Konoha, and no, we can't go. It set explosives all over the place and blow it up. Sengo looked at me and then at the 2 other members of the team. Sir, we had no intention of doing that in the first place. Why would you even mention it? I told her because that is exactly what I wanted to do. I needed to express it or I would continue to have this vile taste in my mouth. This caused the 3 of them to begin laughing. It seems they found the way I was behaving funny. My purpose in doing that worked, it seems. The last thing I need my students letting the exam stress get to them. We each talked about what each of them would train during the month between the preliminaries and the actual final tournament. Most people think that Konoha does the exams differently each time, but in reality that was not the case. Everything was planned and always had the same format. Thanks to the memories I got from my 9 Tails piece, I knew exactly what to expect. I told them that I would use the shadow clone to make sure that all 3 would be properly trained in that month. That made Sengo smile and both Kasara and Kenshin to look quite worried. We decided to go that day and the long journey to Konoha began. We killed a few stupid bandit groups and we made a little money on the way. The trip was actually going rather well, and that means I could use the time to help my team in what I called last-minute training. They mastered the water walking exercise and the kunai spinning exercise by the time we reached Konoha. the gates looked the same as I remembered them. Big, bland and with two idiots glaring at me. State your names, purpose, and place of origin for the record. I told him we were the team from Iwagakure here to participate in the Chunin exams being conducted in Konoha. I decided to introduce my team. I did not mention my name since it would make no sense. My appearance had changed quite a bit since these two last saw me. Having 4 pieces of my soul back had that effect. I am the Junin instructor of this team. This is Sango, Kusara and Kenshin. Be nice and bow to the nice guards. I looked at them and only Kenshin did not bow to them at all. If anything, he looked at them with a look of utter anger on their faces. He looked at me and then at them. Instructor Uzumaki, why would I respect the fools that treated my instructor so badly? Well, there goes my idea of remaining unrecognized during my stay in the village. One of the guards that used to insult me every day, in fact, came closer to me. Is that you, Naruto? I could hardly recognize you. Why is a failure like doing leading a team and from that village? I had to stop both Sango and Kusara from trying to jump the idiot and trying to beat the living daylights out of him. You know, as you clearly said, as a failure I was a normal citizen, and since this place obviously loved me as much as I loved living here, well, I moved, and in my new village my talents were more appreciated than when I lived here. Now if you will excuse me, I got to find a place for my team to stay, meet with your Hokage, got a message from the Tsuchikage after all, and still got a meeting with the proctors of the exams, you know, busy. Last but not least, I outrank you. I will forgive you this time, but other Junin instructors from other villages might not be as nice as I am. My team entered the village and Sango asked me why did I used to say Konoha was a horrible place to live. She actually considered the village to be quite nice. They certainly had more trees than they did, the flowers looked nice, so why such horrible opinion of this place? I told my student that I was describing the people that lived here, not the village itself. Turns out that the village had an entire hotel reserved and paid for all the foreign teams to occupy during the Chunin exams. Well, that told me there would be more villages participating and they were trying hard to avoid a diplomatic incident. I told my team to finish reading what I told them to read, a few scrolls on information gathering. I walked over to the Hokage building and wouldn't you know it, Kakashi was there. He looked like he was waiting for me for some odd reason. Well, would you look at that? I was not expecting to see you here, Naruto. What brings you back here? Ready to admit I was right, and return to Konoha. I looked at him and I couldn't believe he would actually suggest something so repulsive and in public too. I walked into the building and looked at the secretary. Yep, still the same village that I remember hating so much. Got a message for your Hokage. Either open the door, or I will deliver this message over your corpse. A voice was heard laughing through the intercom as I finished saying that. No need to threaten my secretary, Naruto, the door is open. Come on in, I was actually expecting you. I walked into the office and stopped 3 kunai from hitting me with my sword and instead caused them to hit the 3 idiots that threw them at me. I walked over to the desk and placed a scroll on it. The Tsuchikage ordered me to deliver this message, something about burying the hatchet between our villages, and this is how you welcome his messenger. I should really report this to my cage. I should have known not to trust the intentions of Konoha. I was ready to walk out when he began laughing. Actually, Naruto, that was the 3 proctors testing to see if you were really a Junin. You got to remember, they still think that you are an academy dropout. I know full well the contents of that scroll. Onoki and I spoke about it in great detail last time we spoke. So Kakashi was telling the truth. After all, you really are a Junin instructor of Iwa of all places. Honestly, Naruto, why didn't you invite me to come along with you? I have to say I feel quite hurt. You used to love hunting in that forest we both like so much. I turned around and saw that Anko was wearing a trench coat, fishnet vest and shorts, pretty much how I remember her. Well, Anko, I would, but you see, then this place would have an excuse to try and kill you, and nobody wants that. Now, where's old Scarface? He still owes me $40 and let's not forget the interest. This made Anko and a guy who seemed to have a severely bad case of asthma to laugh. So are you here for the exams or are you going to live here from now on? I looked at him and told him once the exams were over I would gladly return to my home, meaning the one in Iwagakure. So you don't ever plan to come back to the village your father loved and died to protect? I knew Ibiki was here somewhere. How could he actually miss this meeting if he was one of the proctors on the exams? I knew by the looks of it, Anko and that guy that apparently had trouble breathing were also proctors of the exams. Do you think I would come to this place had my cage not ordered me to come? I will tell you this, I am not going to be merciful if you plan to attack me to try and kill me, get the gravedigger to start digging. You say my father loved and protected this place, well that was his mistake, not mine. I told the Tsuchikage that we should conduct our own Chunin exams, ignore this place altogether, but he simply would not relent, he told me to bring my students to this place. Just think of it this way. The fourth Hokage had a tough time defeating the Nine Tails, well I am much worse than he ever was, he was being controlled by someone placing him under a genjutsu. I threw all 3 kunai at the people that threw them at me, and they caught them, but since I only used a portion of my strength, they had a hard time keeping a grip on them. Except for a few people, this place was a living hell for me, so don't expect me to shed a single tear if this place gets destroyed. You did notice those ninjas with the music note on their headbands, didn't you? This is information from our Anbu. They found out Orochimaru is the leader of that village. I don't imagine he likes this place any better than I do. Hiruzen looked worried after hearing what I told him. What is exactly keeping you from joining forces with Orochimaru to destroy this place? I told him my cage said this was an attempt to bring peace between our 2 villages since he didn't order me to attack. I was not going to destroy the village, just making sure everyone knew my feelings. I looked at Anko and smiled at her. Now that this is taken care of, I need to ask Anko here to come with me to a place with plenty of privacy. Don't want to ask her to take her clothes off in front of a whole crowd now, do I? Anko began to laugh and asked me why would I ask her to take her clothes off. I told her that she had a little something that smelled rotten on her back. I told her I figured taking care of that would show my village was honest in their attempts to establish peace, even if 3 people of her village tried to kill me. Hiruzen actually told me that Jiraiya had already tried several times to remove that seal, and he didn't succeed at all. I told him that if he wanted to have someone make sure I didn't harm her, we could do it with some doctors watching while I removed that pesky seal. Anko didn't want to wait and told me to follow her to her place. As we walked, she kept looking at me, almost expecting me to blush. I've been married before, and I have the good, bad and embarrassing memories of that marriage. It would take something really spectacular for me to blush. As we walked towards her place, I remembered that she actually lived in that dump of a building I used to live at. The sight of 3 ninjas from Suno was not surprising. The smell coming from the one with the big gourd on his back was a different story altogether. The smell was coming from him, and for some odd reason the gourd itself, it made me think of one of the pieces I still had to absorb. As we walked in the apartment, I told her I only needed to have access to her back in a sewing needle. I heated the needle with my chakra, and when she exposed her back I told her to lie down. I even told her it might hurt a little bit. She told me to get on with it, or was I enjoying seeing her undressed a little too much? I did the hand sign and began to feed chakra through my needle, and sure enough I found that pesky thing inside the seal. Orochimaru had placed a piece of his own soul into the seal. The way the seal was made was a possession seal, or to be more specific, the seal was a reversed of an exorcism seal. A crude way to make a possession seal, be certain, but thanks to the memories I had regained, this seal was no trouble at all. As I fed chakra through the piece of soul I had stabbed and skewered on the needle, the thing began to cry and scream. As soon as it was dead, the seal began to fade and finally it was completely clear. See nothing to it. This possession seal is not that difficult to destroy if you know what you are doing. Now we need to talk about why would Orochimaru come here himself. I would imagine you would have a few ideas why. Anko told me she actually didn't have the first clue. She was surprised to find out the new village was something he formed. I guess the peace has really dulled the information gathering skills of the village, or the person in charge of gathering said information is too busy peeking at women bathing in a few open baths. My guess would be peeping was more important to him. He is quite the pervert, as far as I have heard. My guess he wants the one thing that could really help him get stronger, and faster than he currently can. My guess is he is after the last of the Uchiha. The ability to copy any jutsu by simply watching the hand signs has always been a coveted and envied ability. The guy with the gourd could also be a bit of trouble, but if it comes to that, I will take care of it. I turned around so she could get dressed. You know Naruto, you are in my place, and I am practically naked from the waist up. Why aren't you trying to flirt with me? Or at the very least try to get in bed with you? Mind explaining that to me? Am I that unattractive to you? I heard her putting her clothes back on and decided to make sure to explain I didn't do the typical things a guy my age supposed to do. Anko, honestly you are one of the most beautiful ladies I ever met. I, however, am not your typical guy. I am weirder than even you think I am. In fact, I am already married. My wife just happens to be very far away from here, and I would never in a million years would I cheat on her. Love her too much to even consider it. She began to laugh and I turned around as she laughed about something. Well, if it means anything, I wish I could tell that woman how lucky she is to have married you. Did you two plan to have any kids? I could be the godmother to them. I know Ibiki would love to be the godfather. I began shaking my head. Maybe once I am with her again. I just don't know. We have been apart for a long time. She is as far from us that it feels like she is on the moon. If I remember correctly, we did have 2 sons, and I do have a daughter that is helping me. Now come on, I need to get to the hotel before my team starts to think Konoha has done something to me. I was not surprised that out of all the guest suits, my team and I got the worst. Honestly, I still think we should done these exams back in Iowa. This place always has hated me. I don't see that changing any time soon or ever. I told each of them to be careful and never take anything for granted, to always look at a situation from all angles, to look beneath the underneath as it were, to maintain their confidence and work together. I told them they are the representatives of our village to the world, but to me the most important thing is that they came back alive. I know that I can't accompany them, and let's face it, I do worry about them somewhat. It comes with being their instructor. After spending time with them, how in the world would I be able to say that I don't care? I went to the only restaurant that would ever sell me food and decided to have some ramen. I know what most would think. Ramen for lunch or dinner is fine, but breakfast? Let's face it, there are no ramen stands or restaurants that serve ramen in Iowa, so I might as well enjoy it while I can. I saw a person sitting on the same table I was on. 1 miso ramen please, and what are you having, Orochimaru? That made the person become a little nervous for some odd reason and looked at me. She pulled down her hood and tried to smile at me. You must have me mistaken for someone else. I am just having some rice before I have to go to the exams with my team from Suna. I saw the old chef and for some odd reason he gave me the large bowl. One thanked him and gave him the money for my order, but he refused to take it. Told me it was a delayed birthday gift. Well, you have the scent of a snake. I imagine there are not many people that smell like that. Must mean your family are snake handlers then. My bad. I have to tell you, out of this entire decrepit village, this place is the only place I consider decent. The cook and his daughter are polite, kind and considerate to all customers. The food is great. I am going to miss it actually when I go back to my village. Orochimaru just kept quiet as we both ate our food. I could probably talk to him about gender confusion after having swapped bodies that many times, but then again there was always a rumor that Orochimaru was actually gay. Zetsu told me some pretty funny things about him last night. I still think the entire rivalry with Jiraiya is because he secretly is in love with him. As I finished my bowl, one placed it on the counter as I was ready to leave. A wonderful meal. I sure wish I could convince you to move to Iwagakure. I know I don't have much of a chance of getting you and your daughter to do that, so thank you. I left the money in my bowl. Your kindness is the only birthday present I need. As I walked towards the office of the Hokage, a small child bumped into me. I could not help but to scream at the kid, telling Konohamaru to watch where he was going, he could get hurt running like that. I entered the place where all the other Junin instructors were meeting, and sure enough there were instructors for all the villages present. Sorry for the wait, did I miss anything? This made the other instructors glare at me. Yes, they didn't like me being late, and yet Kakashi is not present. I sincerely doubt that they will glare at him the same way. Then again, the ones glaring at me were from Konoha. No, Naruto have not missed anything. We were having a rather heated discussion about your status actually. Some of the instructors of our village felt that you were not qualified to be considered to enter the exams, much less be considered an instructor. That really made me angry. How dare he say I was part of his putrid village? I am an instructor of Iwa. My Kage tested me and I am recognized by him. Furthermore, I am not a ninja of this village. Don't insult me or my village like that again, or I shall inform my Kage of this, and he doesn't need an excuse to hate this place even more than he already does now, does he? I looked at him and took out my sword. As for people doubting I am strong and skilled enough to be an instructor, by all means attack me, but I am not as merciful as the Hokage there. You attack me and want me to arrange a meeting with your maker. By all means, I will help you meet the Reaper. She is a good friend of mine. That made a couple of the men see I was not kidding, and some of the women blush for some strange reason. There is no need for that, Naruto. Sorry for my mistake. It is just I still remember when you were a little boy living in my village. The Iwakage has informed me that you are indeed qualified, and no, I don't want to cause yet another war because of the hurt egos of a few instructors. As I was going to begin to inform you and the rest of the instructors, the exams will be divided in 3 phases. For if there are too many students to attend the final phase, the first phase is a written exam to test the team's ability to gather information. The second will consist of a tracking and retrieval exam. The third and maybe fourth exam will be a tournament between the remaining students to show their abilities. One of the instructors from the New Sound village decided to put up his hand. And where will the second phase exam happen, Hokage? He didn't even smile when the Hokage told him the second phase is going to be in the Forest of Death. Great. My students alone, in a forest full of poison plants, killer animals, and God knows how many other dangers. This will be lovely. I wonder how many of their parents I will have to meet to inform them of their child's untimely death. I was sick of this already. I wanted to get back to my team and be able to be away these insulting egomaniacs. The job of a ninja is dangerous. We risk our lives every day for our village and Kage, even more so for those that hope to lead teams. If you students cannot handle the risk now as genin, then they have no business attempting to become chunin. As for the forest, if they are skilled and trained well, they are perfectly safe. The forest will provide them with everything they need. One of the Konoha instructors was looking at me. I think I met her before once. Kurenai, I believe her name is. And what would you do if, say, an instructor or person not participating in the exams tries to harm or kill your team? Well, that was not the sort of question I was expecting from her, but if anything, this should make it clear not to mess with me. I looked at her and the glass near her shattered as the water hit the floor in the form of ice. Why, the only thing I would do is hunt down that person and kill him. Then I would hunt down every relative that person has till there is not a single member of his family left. One of the men said I was bluffing. I picked a kunai and threw it at him, barely missing him as it became stuck on a nearby wall, killing a rather poisonous-looking spider. I went to take back my kunai and looked at the instructor from Suna. You really need to be more careful, there are quite a few insects that are poisonous. She looked at me and thanked me while her cheeks were bright red. Are we done with this meeting? I have to check if my team has finished what I left them doing. The Hokage told them that it was but wanted me to stay and talk. According to him, it has been quite some time since we talked. I have better things to do than chat with him, but to refuse could cause an incident, and worse, it would be considered rude, a bad example to my students if they hear of it. I sat down and his secretary brought us both a cup of tea and a teapot. I swear she is the mother of that good-for-nothing Banshee. Not many people actually have pink hair. Well, that is not true. some people could dye their hair that way, but why? I took the cup and began to smell it. I am hurt, Naruto, the tea is not poisoned. He took his cup and took a sip. I dumped the contents of my glass in a nearby potted plant, and the plant began to turn brown, till it finally looked as dead as I figured. I looked at the Hokage, who was still staring at the plant. You were saying this tea was not poisoned? If the tea was not poisoned, then maybe the cup was. Do you honestly think I would trust anyone from this village ever again? He threw my cup hard enough to smash it, and then he picked up the pieces. He could tell as well as I could the cup was indeed poisoned. That blasted Danzo, he must still think that killing you will give him the chance to recover the 9 tails. I was not surprised. I looked at him. Danzo was not someone who I would ever trust. In many times I suspected that the mobs that once tried to do me harm were motivated or began thanks to something he said. I will say this once again. There is no 9 tails, the Biju are parts of my soul. With the memories and experience I have gained from finding and collecting these pieces, that brat has no chance in catching me in a scheme like this. I looked at him and began to shake my head. I could think several reasons why he would want to talk with me in private like this, and not many that I would approve of. So there is no chance for me to get you to return to the villages there. I looked at him and looked at the 3 men hiding behind the fake wall to my right. You think I would gladly return to the place that has wanted me dead every day since I was born? You should consider this a favor. Your village wanted me gone, so I granted them that part of their wish, and once I regain the missing pieces of my soul, I will grant them the last part. The Naruto you knew will be no more. Hiruzen actually looked worried when he heard me. Maybe he still thinks he can use me, or somewhere deep down he actually cares. A little too little, and a little too late. Now I have been given permission to defend myself, so your ambush should not be wasted in following me. Instead they should be more concerned with Orochimaru. I think I saw him at Ichiraku a couple of hours ago. I sincerely don't think he came back to the village with good intentions, but then again who can blame him? If the Chunin exams were not happening here, I would not be anywhere near this place. Like I said, I need to check on the work I left my students to do, and word to the not so wise, if you attack me like I know you want to, I will kill you in the most horrific manner possible, and yes, I do mean you, jackal. I began to walk out and saw the secretary. She looked rather shocked that I was not dead. Your ploy was not a terrible one, Haruno, but then again, you are a few hundred years too early to get the best of me. Be sure to train that daughter of yours, unless you want to hold a funeral for her. Take this advice and thanks for the tea. I was ready to get out when she finally regained her composure. I could feel her standing by the door. You should be dead. You killed our most beloved Hokage, betrayed his village, and still you dare to go on living. Why can't you just die already? I turned around after I opened the door, and I looked at the pitiful woman that screamed at me, sorry, but I don't do requests. I walked out of the place and headed towards the inn where my team was. I hope they finished the assignment I left them. As I returned, I saw that they indeed finished making the seal belts I had left them. I told them to prepare emergency supplies and placed one in each seal on the belt, to place them so they would be useful on a moment's notice. Instructor, I gather everything went well with the meeting. I looked at my student and smiled. Nothing worth mentioning. Dispel your shadow clones and follow me. I am going to take you 3 to eat at the only decent place in this entire village. You 3 deserve a reward for all your hard work, unless there is something you need to tell me. They had nothing to say, and I didn't want to keep my students hungry. They will need all their strength for what they are about to face. I also plan to leave a shadow clone in the form of a bead on each of their headbands. This place may be where the Chunin exams are happening, but that doesn't mean I trust them. It would be smart of them to finish off my students to weaken my village, so I will not leave them unprotected. I know I should have faith in the abilities of Kenshi, Kurara and Sengo. They are my hard-working students, and they will make me proud of their abilities, except that we are in a nest of vipers. Alright, that was an insult. To vipers, that is. I am not kidding, vipers are nicer than the people in the village we were at. I keep telling you to have constant vigilance, this place is enemy territory. Oh, I know you are going to say we are not at war with this village, and you would be correct, except don't count on these people of being fair or that they would not do anything immoral to make sure you three fail. Our village hates this place, don't think they don't feel the same way about our village. Sengo looked at me with this worried look on her face, and then why are we even here? I mean, isn't the practice of hosting these exams on other villages supposed to be to help breed feelings of cooperation and feelings of goodwill towards each other? I looked at them and could not help but to shake my head as I heard what she said. Never take anything for granted, always, and I mean always look the underneath of the underneath. They might want you to feel safe and secure, so that you drop your guard and stab you in the back when you least expect it. I have complete faith in your abilities and skills, just don't ask me to feel the same about these Konoha ninja, cause the only thing I am sure of is, they want me dead. Well, as I woke up I found myself in a rather strange situation. I was tied up and some idiot was sharpening a pair of butcher hatchets. I got to say Danzo sure took his sweet time, too bad for him and the idiots that were working with him. No sunlight must mean I am underground, so they took me from my bed in the middle of the night and I am in the fabled area where he trains his little cult. His precious brainwashed root Anbu. So you are awake, brat, I don't care what that idiot thinks. Anyone can be bought for the right price, that includes the Anbu that the fool set up to protect you. I will get the property of my village back, you can lie to that fool, but I know better than to believe the lies of an idiot like you. I flexed my muscles and I smiled at him. I hope for your sake that my students are safe, because if you did anything to them, you will wish you died. He laughed and said he had no interest in a bunch of stupid genins that came from one of the places that he planned to attack anyways. He said they were fine, but me, that was another story. So my students are safe, good. I see no reason to hold back then. I caused the ropes to break into pieces, the metal of the hatchets to melt, and the people around me to die as their blood froze from my killer intent, one that I had no need to hold back on. I got up from where I was tied and looked at Danzo and he had a scared look on his face. This impossible, you are nothing more than a lying punk, how can you do this? We drugged you, you should not be able to walk for days or ever. I looked at him and smiled. As I came closer his little cult tried to protect him, his little Anbu troops were next to nothing to me. I killed them rather easily. I am a punk, you say? Well, this goes to show even when you tell people the truth they are so used to lying that they never believe other people can tell the truth. Danzo, I am the father of the man that you idiots call the Sage of the Six Paths, and I am also your executioner. Too bad the place was underground. I would have loved it if the people in the village could hear the screams Danzo was making as I took my time killing him. Because I certainly took my time in making him feel like he was in hell before he actually got to the real place, but then again he had planned to do the same thing to me, so I don't feel that guilty about it. As I walked outside the room, many of his followers came in running to find out what happened to their illustrious leader. To say that they found him in pieces must have been a shock, to have been killed by his own weapon even more so. As I walked towards the exit, the idiots tried to get revenge for the murder of their leader. I was not in a good mood. I killed one root Anbu after another. I didn't stop going down the passage towards the exit, walking and killing and walking, just let the corpses fall where they died. I had no time to deal with cleaning up this garbage. I had to get to my team and hear how they were doing. The welfare of my students was the only thing on my mind. As I finally made it out of the passage, I came to find myself outside the village walls, in a rather dense forest that was by the looks of it near the Hokage monument. I was going to need a bath and new clothes. There is no way I will be able to clean my clothes after they got caked by so much blood. I ran towards the entrance and that is when two Chunin guards stopped me. Name, village of origin and purpose. Are these guys suicidal or just plain stupid? Naruto, Iwagakure, going to continue to aid my students in their exams. Now will you move? I got things to do, change my clothes, and find my team. One of them looked at my clothes. It must be because I mentioned my clothes to them. Where have you been? As they opened the gate, I didn't bother looking at him and simply told him taking care of the garbage. I was walking towards the hotel my team was staying at when someone bumped into me. It was the same person again. Will this kid ever learn that he needs to think before he does things? Konohamaru, you need to learn some manners. You are the grandson of your Hokage. You need to think what your actions say about you and him. When you bump into someone, you must apologize. Not to do so is rude. I didn't even intend to lecture him, but something about this behavior made me remember my kids when they were little. They thought the world was their playground like he does. I probably said the same thing to them. My sons were so innocent once, so full of kidneys, and they looked like they could not hurt an ant. Yes, I was wrong in the end. Like I care. I am the grandson of the third Hokage. I can do whatever I want and nobody can tell me what to do. There is nothing I can't get away with, and I will not even get a slap on my wrist for it. I stole, I peeked at women bathing, I lied, I made other do my homework or threatened shops to get the things I want. You are giving me a lecture for just bumping into you. Are you a complete fool? I looked at him and glared at him. You know something, you are right. I am a bit foolish, to think that you would be better than what I come to expect from the people in this village, but remember my words, Konohamaru, everything bad we do comes back to make us pay, it is just a matter of time. He really looked upset when I said that. Just who the hell do you think you are? What makes you think you know any better than me? You are nothing, no, less than nothing compared to me. I will talk to my grandfather and I will get him to punish you for daring to talk to me like that. I looked at him and realized my mistake. This kid is no better than Sasuke, or should I say he is even worse. I don't think you need to tell him anything, he heard you loud and clear. Who am I? I am the father of the sage of the six paths. I really wish I could talk to your father about how much his son needs discipline. If this was anywhere else, I would put you on my knee and give you an attitude readjustment. I didn't intend to let out so much killer intent, and I sure didn't intend to scare the brat, but the things he said made me so angry I could no longer contain it. He looked like he was ready to piss his pants. I actually think he did something much worse. Good thing he was wearing brown pants. So off you go, brat. What, where you are going, or the next person you bump into might not be as friendly and forgiving as I am. He took off like he saw the Grim Reaper, and I went on my way to the hotel. I hope my students are doing all right. As I made it back to the room, I was not greeted in such a gentle manner. They all rushed me and tackled me to the floor. Apparently they were worried about me. They were all crying and giving me a group hug, it seems. I don't remember if I ever experienced something like that before. Guys, it's alright, I am not that easy to finish off, so come on. You three have to tell me how things went on the written exam. That was when they suddenly turned pale and looked at me with this rather scared look on their faces. Guess this means they actually passed. Knowing who the proctor of that exam was meant they had a hard time. So let me get this straight. You three passed because you three got so nervous that you actually didn't answer any of the questions. You just answered the last one, that you would do your duty, and that is it. Did you pass? Just like that? Boy, Ibiki sure has gone soft since last I knew him. Sango began to laugh and said that the lady wearing the trench coat pretty much said the same thing, that the next phase was going to happen in a gated forest. You wouldn't know what she means by gated forest, would you, instructor? I took a deep breath to calm myself. Oh, you mean the forest of death. Sure, I know the place. It is actually a rather wonderful place, a playground, hotel, and a grocery store all in one. If I ever missed anything about this dump of a village, it is the forest. I loved spending time there growing up. Anything you need or want you can find in that forest if you are smart and figure where to look. That made my students both relax and begin laughing. Why would they call the place something like the Forest of Death if it is such a wonderful place? I told them simply because the place was wonderful didn't mean it was not dangerous to those that were foolish or weak. It is such a wonderful place that many dangerous beasts call the forest their home, so of course, they will defend it. We ninjas feel the same way about our village. Why should it be any different for them? This made my students go quiet for a little bit, well, except Kasara, who was actually looking at me with apparently newfound respect. Instructor, what will you do while we are in the forest? I told them that I was going into the forest too, no reason that I couldn't visit a few childhood friends now is there. I also plan to do a little hunting for something very precious for me, or should I say, someone, since he carries a piece of me inside himself but doesn't even know I already caught the scent of that piece. I took my students out to the only place I call decent in the entire village. The best restaurant there is, Ichiraku. The other places could burn till there was nothing but ashes, but if Ichiraku closed down forever, why, I might actually break down in tears. As we ordered our food, my students kept asking me about my childhood, so I decided that they should tell me each a story for every story they asked of me. I had no idea that Sengo loved to sew clothes, or that Kenshin loved to knit. Kasara's passion for cooking was also something I never realized. It is partially my fault, it seems. I always do the cooking when out in the field. We went to a training field to check on their progress in the chakra control exercises I always asked them to do. For kicks, I picked training field number 7. I know that one has a monument my students might find interesting. As I checked, Kenshin still needs a little work on the leaf exercise. Sengo pretty much was ready to move to the kunai spinning exercise, and Kasara was ready to move to another elemental control exercise. I swear she puts most Uchiha to shame with how good she is with fire control. I threw a kunai at a tree branch and went back to look at my students. Was that really necessary, Naruto? I saw next a very upset Kakashi holding his book, which apparently had a hole in it. I guess my kunai punctured his book when he was taking it out. I would like some privacy when training my team. I don't spy on yours now, do I? I also never hid my absolute hate for that book. To call that thing literature is an insult to properly written books everywhere. I mean, come on. The book only has stories with the main character. Having hordes of women just throw themselves at him for sex or other forms of gratification, to put it simply, it is smut. That made him angry. If the glare I was getting from him was any indication, it is a book series dealing with the difficulties of starting and maintain a relationship. It is a guide, a holy book that has saved many marriages across the elemental nations. So do you have any other insults to this wonderful book? I like to get them out of the way, as it were. I looked at the book and then at him. Never mind that the author failed at starting a relationship with the only woman he ever was interested in, spends more time in whore houses than some people spend in restaurants, is a perpetual drunk, and according to himself is a super pervert. Take it from me, marriage is never easy to maintain or ever as simple as that book makes it out to be. Take it from a guy who was married to the same woman for over 50 years. That made him spit in my general direction, and walk towards me. And where is your wife? You are not even 20 years old as far as I know, and you spent 50 years married. That is an absolute lie, so tell Naruto, where is your wife? You never even had a girlfriend, you liar. I took a deep breath and looked up in the sky for a second. I could see a little bit of the moon up there. I looked at Kakashi and smiled. I don't say we are currently together. We got separated against our will, but she is always looking out for me. Ever seen the moon? That is where my wife is, and I am willing to bet you should be happy she is there, 'cause she would have kicked your teeth in for that last comment alone. I looked at my class and for some reason, Kenshin was the only one with a confused look on his face. Instructor, why pick this field? I forgot to tell my students why this field was so special. Yes, since they showed me they are making good progress with the exercises, I might reward them for doing so well. Well, excuse me, Kakashi, but I need to show my students something really interesting. I told them to follow me, and wouldn't you know it, Kakashi followed me too. I stood at the large rock and told my class to stop. I pointed at the rock. It was carved with many names and it was a very important monument for Konoha. This class is the monument to all the people who died in the defense of this village. Yes, every single name carved on this rock is a person who died to protect this village, be it in war or in tragedy. These my students are the heroes of this village, and to always remember them they made this monument. I decided to point a few names. Tsukumo Hackett is the father of the man with us, and how can I forget Kushina Uzumaki, the woman who helped me be able to be here with you, my precious students. and last but not least my father Minato Namikaze, otherwise known as the fourth Hokage. That made my students look at me with a surprised look on their faces, and he is also the person whose last order was used by this village's toilet paper for years after he died defending this very village. They even went further and tried to kill me, his son. To this day they never apologized or even thought they did anything wrong. I can imagine he is rolling in his grave from the rage he must be feeling if he could. My 3 students looked at me with a look that told me they understood why this place was so important to me. That is also my lesson for you today. Heroes are people who look beyond themselves for the greater good of all, and sometimes the people they help do not appreciate it. Do good for the sake of doing something good, never because you expect them to be grateful or for a reward. Always remember what I taught you during our D-rank missions: a person who abandons a mission is scum, but a person who abandons his team is worse than scum. We will always stand for each other, and I will always think for ways to help you, for you see, even when you pass, and become Chunin, and are no longer under my care, you will always be my precious students, and you can come to me for help, always. I am not even worried about the first part of the exams. If anything, I think it will be a little easy for them since I pretty much drilled information into them every chance I got. I also know they can read between the lines and are pretty good at information gathering. I decided to go towards the Forest of Death and wait for them. This place sure brings back memories, and out of the entire village, this forest is one of the few places where those memories are pleasant. I used to love hunting in this forest, my personal grocery store. I went and killed a boar, skinned it and cooked it with some herbs with a fire jutsu. I was eating some of my freshly cooked boar when Anko finally showed up. She walked near me and without even asking took a piece of the boar and began eating it. You really did a number with those students of yours. I swear they got through that phase like it was a walk in a park. What exactly did you do to those kids that not even Ibiki could scare them? I didn't bother looking at her. I told her I did my job. I taught them exactly what they needed to know and prepared them for the worst. Instead of worrying about my students, shouldn't you be getting ready to meet Orochimaru? You know he is in town. Last but not least, why don't you tell your friends that are in your coat to come out and eat some of this meat? They sound like they could use a meal. She looked at me and began to move her arms, and indeed 6 snakes came slithering out of her coat. They each began to eat. How did you know I had them with me? I told her that their clan is an old friend of mine. I looked at one that was eating and she was really enjoying her meal. I hope Manda is doing alright. It has been centuries since last I met him. She looked at me and nodded her head. Good. Then chances are I will get to meet my old friend. Anko looked at me with a bit of a smile and she continued to eat her food till we were rudely interrupted by a horde of students taking the exam running to the gated fence where we were. Ibiki is going soft in his old age. How many of them passed? A better question is, did he fail any of them? Anko began to laugh as she heard me say that. I told him the same thing myself. You got yourself to blame. Your students simply would not back out of the last question, and because they did, none of the other students backed out either. Kenshin, his sister, and Sango were all waving at me as soon as they arrived. I can't believe they are treating this exam like it is a field trip. I will have to have a serious talk with them during the next phase. My target was present also, the one they call Gara. I could practically feel the piece of my soul that he had sealed inside. Alright boys and girls, welcome to the infamous Forest of Death. This next part is simple. We got a simple tracking and retrieval mission. 2 scrolls, one called the Earth Scroll, the other Heaven Scroll. Each team gets one, and have to find a team that has the other scroll. Only teams that have both and reach the building in the middle of the forest pass this part of the exams. Now before you go and take a scroll, I need you all to sign a waiver form. Those that don't sign pretty much fail and can try again next year. Why the waiver? It is simple. From here on out you may use any means to obtain the scroll from other teams, that includes killing. The waiver is a standard liability waiver. As soon as you sign the form and hand it over to me, you can pick a scroll from the barrel next to me. Any questions? I looked at Sakura and I knew she would have questions. What are we going to do about food and shelter? Sure enough, she had to ask the obvious question. Why am I not surprised that she thinks the village will provide her with her basic necessities? If you bother to think and look beside me, you will notice there is a nicely roasted boar. This place has everything you need: food, shelter, even bathrooms if you know where to look. Thanks for the meal, Naruto. That was very sweet of you. My friends sure enjoyed their meal. I could not help but to smile. Don't mention it. I grew up eating things from this forest, so trust me, if anything, my students will be fine here. I don't know about the rest of these kids, but then again they are not my responsibility. Before I forget, see you soon, Shukaku. A person threw a kunai my way and sure it would hit if I was a naive genin, but I am not. I caught the kunai by the handle and began to smell it. I walked over to the person I knew was Orochimaru and began to twirl the kunai. Is this yours? I guess your hand slipped. These things have a tendency to get lost. You should really be more careful. She looked at me. Kukuku, no, I didn't lose it. I threw it so that you would catch it. It is a gift after all. It will make it easier for me to find you later. Then again, I am sure I will see you soon enough, handsome. Can't wait for us to have a really good old time in that forest. Anko was now glaring at her and she was glaring at Anko. Did Anko forget I am married? I know it is written in the bingo book. She just took the scroll and went back to her team. She was standing close enough. Why did Anko not realize it was Orochimaru? I mean, for crying out loud, her snake friends were reacting to her. One by one they each took a scroll, and each went into the forest. As soon as we were alone she looked at me and boy did she look angry. So the one that was flirting with you is Orochimaru. I never thought I would agree with Jiraiya, but I guess after changing bodies so much my old mentor can't remember he is actually a guy. Anko, please understand, I am happily married. My beloved wife just happens to be very far away from me due to circumstances beyond our control. Now don't worry, I will do my best to keep Sasuke, Sakura and Sai safe, and if I can I will give your old mentor a beating to slow him down for you. She immediately began to laugh and smile like I said something really to her liking. Honestly, I am too old for this. I guess I never noticed how fast women can have a change in mood. As I walked up a tree trunk I began to run towards where I sensed Shukaku was. One more piece of my soul. I hope that with this I can be strong enough to even try a spiritual projection. If I can do the spiritual projection I might be able to get my consciousness to reach my beloved on the moon. Then again I hope she recognizes me. I mean, after losing so much power I am bound to look different than what she remembers what I once looked like. Damn that Shukaku, or should I say damn that Gaara. He is doing everything he can to avoid me. I immediately saw Manda's daughter chasing after Sai. I jumped down and immediately without even saying a word picked him up and we were out of reach of the snake that was chasing him down. Sai, no time for gratitude or explanations, we need to move now. If I know who that snake was, Sasuke and Sakura are in deep trouble. He had this look of concern on his face as he nodded and we took off. I immediately used the trees to sense where they were and sure enough there was Manda. Well, I at least get to meet an old friend. I jumped as fast as I could and when Manda was about to touch Sasuke I jumped in between them holding Manda back. Hey, you are not hurt are you, kid, you scaredy cat? He just looked at me and he had this look of utter shock when he looked at my face. I guess I tapped into a little too much power to increase my speed to be able to catch up to them. Manda, sorry to tell you but you got this disgusting growth on your head. I am sorry but I simply don't know of any cream that can deal with something as nasty as that, might as well pop it. You actually listened to my advice about the mint mouthwash, nice. Manda pulled back and Orochimaru looked absolutely pale from the sheer rage. Wait, he was always that pale. Who do you think you are to talk to me in such a casual tone? I looked at him and when he saw my face and directly into my eyes I could see that somewhere in his mind he still remembered me. Who am I? I am the infernal flame that dances on the graves of my enemies, you know that. Your daughter might be a little upset that I interrupted her dinner. but I would never think you would forget me, Manda. You were such a cute little snake when we met last. You even lived in our garden. I and my wife used to take care of you. Did you forget me already? Orochimaru finally got the nerve to talk. Look, I don't try to interrupt your schemes now, do I? Just let me have that Uchiha brat, and you can even have the scroll I have. Your team more than likely will need it. How about it? You let me do what I need to do, and I help you. It's called professional courtesy. This might even let me destroy the village we both hate so much. Well, that put me in a right pickle. On the one side I wanted this stupid village burned to the ground, on the other Sasuke is one of my descendants. Decisions. I know I will never be able to have this opportunity again, but I can't ignore my own teachings, can I? I looked at Orochimaru, who finally took off the face he was wearing and he looked more like a man. Sorry about this, Orochimaru, but this so-called brat is my descendant. I can't tell how many generations, but he is a child of my child, so as much as I would love to see this village burned to the ground, I can't let you harm him. Good thing the kid fainted as soon as he looked at me. Don't need him knowing who I really am. A few hand signs and Manda knew I meant I was serious as the air turned freezing cold, and my hands turned blood red. Manda left as two black thunderbolts came down from the sky and struck him in the middle of his chest. He was breathing hard but still alive. I walked over to him and made several vines come out of the ground and wrapped themselves around Orochimaru. He was not going to go anywhere. Those vines are better than any chains, and the more a person struggles, the more they weigh a person down. I took something from my pocket and opened it, but Sakura took it from me. You are not going to poison him, you liar. I will not let you harm my Sasuke. Is she blind or simply that naive? I just captured one of the most wanted criminals that her own village wanted, saved her and Sasuke from being somebody's lunch, and this is the gratitude she shows me. Honestly, I should not be that surprised. It is not like I expect her to be that grateful. I mean, this village has tons of people who still wish I was dead, and some that want to be the one to kill me. I guess this really should make relax, since it also means not much has changed in the village. I decided to open a path for her and Sasuke to reach the building in the middle of the jungle. 15 shadow clones made sure they got there safe, and one informed Anko where to find the still tied up Orochimaru. The only way I could think of that he might free himself is to kill the body he is currently possessing. This would disrupt his plans, so I don't think he would ever even consider doing that. In truth, I expect him to use a contact within the village council to help him escape, and possibly give him a chance to pretend to be a visiting Kage or dignitary so that he could be at arm's reach of the Hokage. Killing the Hokage would make destroying the village easier, I know that, but the Kage of this village does not deserve that. As I made it to the building where they were supposed to deliver the scrolls, I walked up the walls and sat on the roof. I wanted a good vantage point to find my team, and that is when I saw that indeed my team were doing a marvelous job against a group of sound ninja. The new villages hidden in sound apparently sent a team to be promoted. I could not help but to feel proud as they managed to both take the scroll they needed, beat them up so severely that the animals around them, I think, actually felt pity for the ones my students beat up, and they left them tied up hanging by their feet from rather large tree branches. I think that is how you are supposed to protect your camping provisions when you go camping where bears are known to be in the area. I could tell they were screaming at my team, and I almost could hear what they were screaming. Well, with a mouth as foul as that, it is no wonder no animal wanted to eat them. They finally made it to the tower, and sure enough, the scrolls themselves formed a reverse summoning seal, which apparently was set to summon their teacher. You can imagine my surprise when I was 1 minute sitting on the roof and the next I was standing in front of my students.